Japan is the second largest music market in the world, and it's been a little bit late to the streaming game, something that we really ride. So obviously Sonos has really benefited from the rise of streaming services like Spotify, like Pandora, et cetera. And so Japan, we've seen starting to pick up streaming over the last year or so, and so we're glad to now bring Sonos into that market. So it's an exciting day for us. Global expansion is a big part of our growth story for the future.
Patrick, considering how much competition there is here in the U.S. with so many different home devices now, some of which you're partnered with, but still competition, how important is this global expansion to drive your growth going forward?
There is a lot of opportunity remaining in the markets that we're in today. There's about 5 countries that make up 80% of our revenue today, and so those are important markets. We think it's really early in those markets like the U.S., as you mentioned, Julia, but also global expansion. There's a ton of opportunity. What we try to do, China's a great example where I'm sure you're all aware of Tencent filing for their IPO. We've worked with them for quite a while, and so China's another great market for global expansion, somewhere where we're today. Japan's been a little bit later, but it's something that's going to be a big contributor to our growth over the next decade.
Patrick, it's John Fort. The challenge for you, as I see it, or one of them, is proving out the quality story as far as Sonos goes. There's so many coming into the market with smart speakers that are less expensive than yours, and you've got to make an argument that yours just sound better and are worth the premium. Aside from placement inside, say, big box stores, what can you do to not just tell that story, but prove it out?
Yeah, that's a great point, John. And I think that's been, something that as we're doing the roadshow, for instance, and talking to investors, we've been trying to help people understand that our approach is very different to the approach that other companies are taking in this space. We're so used to consumer electronics companies bringing out dozens of new devices every year, trying to get you to upgrade to the latest and greatest. Sonos builds quality devices like you talked about, but they last for many years, and we make them better over time with software, and then people buy more of them, so they actually add it to the system. So we've been doing things like working with Ron Johnson's new startup Enjoy to actually bring that experience into your home and allow you to test it in your home. And so I think we're working in Japan with Beams, a high-end retailer that's really focused on the design of your home and giving you that experience in a different type of way, because I think all of you might have the Sonos experience, and it's really something you need to experience in your home to feel the power of it from a design perspective, from a sound quality perspective, but also the openness to services, right? So we support all the services around the world. We're not focused on pushing one particular voice service or one particular music streaming service the way some of the other solutions out there are.
Can you give us a sense of how the Sonos Beam has done since you launched it in July? I mean, it seems like there's so many competitors when it comes to the idea of streaming content to your television. This is an area where you're really in a crowded space. How's it doing so far?
Well, the Beam's actually the first smart speaker for the living room, right? So there's definitely video solutions out there, Roku, Amazon Fire, those type of things, but really Beam's the first smart speaker focused on the living room. We've seen lots of products that have been focused more on, bedroom or kitchen, and it's the first one that gives you music, and it gives you TV, and it gives you the voice features and functionality. So we've been very pleased with its performance so far in all the markets, and it's going to be a big one for the holiday season in our estimation, because it really does have a unique spot in the home and is an area that really nobody to this point has addressed.
Patrick, as you know, we're in an increasingly difficult environment in terms of global supply chains. What would have to happen for you to really recalculate production in Asia or move some of those chains depending on what tariffs do?
It's been decades in the making of the supply chain across China, and that's not something end to end that you can move overnight. So a lot of the noise around tariffs has been concerning in terms of thinking about that whole supply chain. We've been working hard, and a lot of people in the industry have been working hard to look at how do you do that and what are you going to move. But there's so many parts of that supply chain that are so interdependent now and have been built over decades that it's not something that can happen very quickly. So, but it's something that I think everybody now is being more mindful of and trying to really look at. We're fortunate about half of our business in the U.S., so we've got half outside the United States, and we've been spared from the tariffs, the tariffs that have been implemented so far. But it's certainly something we think about, and we're trying to do in a responsible way, and with the long term in mind, think about where else can you be manufacturing. But that is not something that you can really do overnight.
Yeah, I mean, you listen to Jack Ma, and he's like, well, if this got really serious and if it lasted 20 years like he says it possibly could, you would see at least original production move to countries outside of China, but within Asia, Vietnam and others. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah, you could definitely start to see some of that happening as a result. But remember, I think people end up thinking it's just the manufacturing. You know, there are hundreds of components that go into one of our products, and you have to have all of those component suppliers in the same location. You know, you have to be able to do just-in-time delivery. And so you're talking about moving potentially hundreds of companies, not just a manufacturing plant here or there. This is a very complicated and very interdependent supply chain now for anything that's being built in technology. And so that's something that's not going to happen, you know, in a short time.
Patrick, voice control in a way is commoditized because you got Amazon, Google, Microsoft, Apple, others out there with that feature, and most of them are broadly making it available across devices. So what is, particularly this Q4, the premium feature that differentiates, the thing that you think people are going to want and are going to be willing to either make a brand choice or a premium choice based on?
You know, I think the good news with Google and Amazon really seeding the market with a lot of inexpensive voice speakers is it's given people a taste of certain services, but in a narrow range, right? So you can access the Google services or the Amazon services from those products. But what you can't do is what you can do on Sonos, which is access all the services, right? So we have Alexa today, Google Assistant is coming on our platform. We're the only ones putting multiple voice assistants on one product through software. And we've already shown we have over 80 music services today on the Sonos platform. So we create, you know, really our proposition is you can invest in Sonos and it gets better over time and you're going to get all those services for the next 5 to 10 years, and you can add different rooms, play across multiple rooms. And so it's very much thinking about how you expand, how you put it in your home in a long-term quality, as you mentioned, way, and do it in a really simple way. But you get that security that you're going to have access to all services. You don't have to try to figure out how to navigate the battles of big tech.
Patrick, good stuff. Really interesting information. Drop by Post 9 sometime and see us in person. Thanks for your time.